Good morning. Today, the April 6th, is celebrated all over the world as World Geologists Day. The science of geology is rather as old as any other sciences, but then it is not as popular as other physical sciences or biological sciences for various reasons. However, the backbone of every nation in the world is the resources that are contained within the lithosphere, that is the uppermost part of the earth, including the rocks, minerals making the rocks, and the soil in the upper part of the lithosphere. The lithosphere crust is thicker in all the continents compared to their thinness in the ocean basins. So this is all sort of definition. But what is the role of geologists in the modern day world? That is more critical. The world today is facing a threat from what is called global change, climate change, etc., etc. In different audiences, for our different communities, different names are given, that's all. What matters is the lithosphere or the crust of the earth, upper part of the lithosphere, is the storehouse of all the resources in order to maintain a long-lasting civilization and a good life for the people of the planet. And I also would include under that the birds and animals occupying the virgin forests of the planet, and then the trees, shrub vegetation or savanna vegetation or desert, etc. All these are influencing the future of humanity. One of the reasons for choosing this day as the World Geologist Day is to underscore the point that the administration, policy makers, and active community leaders shall not forget about the role of geoscience. Now, in this remaining minutes, I would want to emphasize one point particularly that is relevant to this year or the years to come. What is our threat? Threat from the planet is actually by the planet itself. In other words, there was a time when everything was taken for granted. Now science has told us, no, that is the wrong way. The planet has a lag time to react, like any or many of the natural systems. In other words, if you stone a dog, dog will bark or run away. Or if that is a quick reaction, and Earth does not quickly react. Earth will take a longer time to respond to what we do. This is the difference. So what as humans, average humans, we don't understand is this lag of time that Earth takes to react is immeasurable, ununderstandable for the many thousands of hundreds of thousands of people involved in the what I call as harming the earth, harming the crust, and consequently harming the lithosphere in the longer run. So, what we do, the geoscientists have invented or devised what is called a geoengineering, a field of study called geoengineering. Geoengineering is, in simplistic terms, nothing else but the geological solutions or geological engineering solutions to save the humanity along with the rest of the life on the earth, planet earth, from the vagaries, from the impacts, long lasting and uh, hard impacts that people will suffer, that earth will, will fuel. So, what is actually that we are doing, harming to the earth? How we are harming the earth? Very simple. Well, greenhouse gas emission leading to the global temperature rise. Well, greenhouse gases were identified by a great chemist by name Arrhenius in the early last century or so, and where he said the unabated release of carbon dioxide gas that is contained within the coal, which is used to drive turbines and locomotives for various purposes. And this carbon dioxide goes on building up in the atmosphere. And when I say atmosphere, most people do not have a clear idea of what atmosphere is. Atmosphere is only the lower part of the first 12 kilometers from the Earth's surface upward. That is all it is. So, what we do is, we have to worry about the atmosphere and how atmosphere changes, how atmosphere accumulates, or traps, as the word usually used, the carbon dioxide, the leading what is called the greenhouse gas. What is greenhouse? It calls for an explanation. Greenhouse, in my college days, there was a greenhouse in front of the botany department of the university college. But anyway, now it is no longer there because we don't believe in science, are maintaining institutions of science to maintain a very high standard. So that is the fate of the colleges, or the college like the University College in Thrivikramji. A greenhouse gas is, in simplistic terms, is a sheltered area which allows only the sun's energy, including light energy and heat energy, to come in and not go out. That is the way farming, fruit farming, vegetable farming, etc. are undertaken in the higher latitudinal countries in the world. So, well, if you look at the numbers of regarding the greenhouse gas emissions, that is actually terrifying. And the IPCC, as it is called, in one of its reports said that the accumulation of carbon dioxide, like greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, oxide of nitrogen, then methane. Methane is very common. The main source is our paddy fields, or the what is called our wetlands, and methane is actually 25 times more harmful to the atmosphere and people of the earth than carbon dioxide itself. So, how do we do geoengineering to remove this? Well, there are several technologies available now. One is to curtail or reduce the carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere so that by 2050 or at least by the turn of the century, the what is called the temperature, atmospheric temperature will be 1.5 degrees Celsius higher than the pre-industrial days. Well, pre-industrial days is actually taken as the benchmark because those days there is the release of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, lower troposphere, was practically nil because there was no use. Basically, no industry was there, there was no steam engine, and therefore there was no need for burning coal. The Industrial Revolution marks really a revolutionary time, a scientific revolution it is. Not only that the British came up with different types of turbines and steam turbines, and not only that, this spread all over the world, including India. Our railway lines, our trains, they were all pulled by steam engines, burning coal, releasing carbon dioxide and other gases. And some of for example, Indian coal has some higher content of sulfur dioxide. That also is a harmful gas, but unlike methane or carbon dioxide, it is not included as a very harmful, deadly greenhouse gas. What is geoengineering? Okay, geoengineering is geological engineering solution. The number one point is about capturing carbon dioxide from the lower atmosphere, then pumping it down to abandoned oil and gas wells into the formations that are now no longer holding any oil or gas. Instead, it is keeping a lot of open space, pore space, permeable material. Well, of course, the technology is there. It is currently used in different form. Technology in the sense pumping material into the abandoned gas or oil wells or into new oil wells, new gas wells. Well, that is how gas is recovered or how oil is recovered in the tertiary stage. So that is one. Number two is capture again. The whole thing points to capturing carbon dioxide. Capture the carbon dioxide, then pump it down to the ocean floor. Well, of course, we have to be very careful in selecting the areas of the ocean floor. Ocean floor means deep down into the ocean floor, where wells will be drilled and the carbon dioxide, the gas will be pumped down into. And ultimately, these two processes will reduce the carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere and also the concern about avoiding carbon dioxide emitting fuels as a national or state policy by the various governments will also help in reducing the buildup of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. A third method under geoengineering is actually to make certain rocks in the Earth's crust. Well, distribution of the rock types along with the minerals, resources, metal resources is non-uniform in the crust, in the continental crust. Anyway, there are areas where certain minerals, mineral matter or rocks like dunite, D-U-N-I-T-E, which is actually a magnesium iron magnesium silicate and belonging to the olivine family. And if we have right context, in other words, first, what is the context? We need actually what is the layers of rock, formations, dunite formations extensively, that is number one. Number two, it should be impervious. In other words, if we drill a hole or boreholes and pump into the rock, what is called carbon dioxide, it will stay put there and then seal it. And another advantage is the carbon dioxide will react with the magnesium and iron and convert them to a vast degree, to a large degree, to magnesium and iron carbonate. That is a very interesting find, very interesting technology actually. Then fourth method of carbon build-up reduction is again capture the carbon dioxide, separate the oxygen, because oxygen has a huge uses in the industrial world and in the health care area. But the carbon we get out of it can be used to make several other carbon-based, carbon primary, new materials, new industrial materials of useful for the civil society, for their well-being can be created. In other words, instead of going for carbon or other byproducts from the oil refining process, we can capture the carbon dioxide, separate the oxygen and use it, and the carbon, make use of it to make anything we want. Even carbon fiber, for example, it is an area which can be experimented out. I shall not say that experimented with. I shall say that it is actually in the process. Only thing is, as long as we have sources of carbon that will go into making carbon fiber or any other such new materials based on carbon, then obviously going for capturing carbon dioxide and then collecting it, purifying it, going through an industrial process of separating carbon from oxygen will be only I will not say the last resort, will be the second priority always, will have only the second priority, not the first priority. So what we have to do is, on this Geologist Day, what I want to remind all of you is about the role of geologists in locating permeable porous formations below the ground, away from the eyesight, that is one. Identifying regions which are tectonically much safer and calm. And thirdly, identifying rock formations like dunite, their existence, their vastness, their capacity to store carbon dioxide gas. All these are very important as far as the future of the humanity is concerned. In other words, geologists are, there is an old saying, I think I had repeated it earlier also. If you cannot grow it or buy it, you have to mine it. For example, take the example of the black sand mining proposed by Government of India off Kollam in the deeper ocean. Well, there is huge hue and cry. It's all political and unscientific, because politician can change the opinion the very next moment. He will simply say that we have no evidence. It will not harm. Unfortunately, who is the loser? It is not the politician. It is the public. In other words, the hue and cry made by the coastal people, fish workers, when the idea of building what is called a Viljam seaport was mooted. It was huge. There was dharna and what is called the hand-holding and dharna from one end of Kerala to the other end, opposing what is called the Viljam seaport. However, a bold chief minister, we luckily had one person in Ummanchandi. Ummanjandi's cabinet or he himself decided that there is no going back on the decision of building the seaport. Now it is one of the best in the world in Asian waters, and it is going to be a future gold mine not only for the state of Kerala, for the entire nation. In other words, this kind of sea draft, depth to the floor, does not exist everywhere in the state of Kerala or within this short distance. This is the whole problem. People don't know what is bathymetry, what is bathymetric chart. Unfortunately, ignorant people take the leadership and they have only one piece of evidence. It is a multivariate situation. It is a complex situation. And therefore, geoscience is actually what is called a hybrid science. Geoscience is a hybrid science. That is the whole advantage of geoscience or geoscientists versus a biologist. We don't have biologists. We have only botanists and zoologists. Unfortunately, that is the way it is. And people shout against it. So, on this Geologist Day, my humblest reminder is we have to listen to what geologists got to say about exploitation of resources, whether it occurs in the Western Ghats or it occurs in the seafloor of Kerala, or you say of Kerala. In other words, I feel with this line, I will conclude it. A new building, a multi-story flat is coming up in front of where I stay, the flat complex I stay. I feel so elated when I look at the building construction because they use only hollow bricks for the wall. Way back in 83, 86, I did a study on the river metamorphosis due to human intervention, where recommendation 22, 23, 24, I think were, do not rely on construction grade fine aggregate any longer in the in the river channels. The Naya River is actually ecologically dead. This is what I wrote. Instead, we cannot stop construction which consumes lot of fine aggregates. And what is the source then? My research did not stop with that. I proposed that break the rock, crystalline rock, or quarry the rock, crush it into fine aggregate and coarse aggregates. Both are extremely useful in modern construction in concrete, with making cement concrete. And what is the advantage of the process? The advantage of the process is that almost 73 to 75% of the rock gets converted to a saleable, consumable material. Now, see, there is a building coming up within the MLA quarters compound, another annex to the MLA quarters in Thrivikramji. They use only hollow bricks and concrete pillars and beams. So all the high-rise buildings, now make use of what is called fine aggregate, manufactured fine aggregate. And of course, Kuncheria, Dr. Kuncheria, one-time VC of one of the universities in Kerala, is given, I give him the credit for making Popes a investor, a industrialist to manufacture and sell what is called the fine aggregate on a commercial scale. Now, of course, they are a huge undertaking. So, what I said in 1983-86, though many did not understand and poo-pooed the idea, including engineers and scientists. Now, without looking at what is behind the mortar and the painted wall of their own homes or their flat they buy it. What is inside? It is all lithogenic material. So on this day, I salute all the geologists for making steadily, unabatedly new contributions to the welfare of the society, welfare of the nation, welfare of the planet. Thank you very much.